report of the committee, there is some sense of pride that I have seen in the fact that the budget is bigger this time, and Mr. Speaker, also that the revenues, is an increased, revenues collected. And Mr. Speaker, when you look at the reasons why the revenues have gone up, it is because of an increase in income tax, an increase in VAT, increase in excise duty collections, and also the introduction of new taxes like the housing levy. Mr. Speaker, it is important to be very careful about the wording, because I know that a lot of people are still pained at the level of the level of taxation in the country. Because when you look at the wording on section 31, where it says that this increased revenue is reflecting optimism in the ongoing tax policy reforms and enhanced revenue administration measures. Madam Speaker, that really isn't the truth, because a lot of people out there have been complaining about the disposable income and how much lower it has gone as a result of those increased taxations. So, Mr. Speaker, it's important to be careful how we word these issues so that people do not remember the pain that they are feeling. Madam Speaker, we are also talking about an increase in appropriations in aid. And that basically is also not a positive thing, because, Madam Speaker, what it really means is that the cost of government services are also going up, and that therefore means that some of our people may not be able to afford the basic services that are supposed to be provided. So when we are celebrating an increase in revenue and celebrating an increase in collections by government agencies, then we forget that this is money coming out of the pockets of Kenyans who are promised that they would have much more money in their pockets. But despite all this, Madam Speaker, I also notice, again, as usual, we still have a hole in our budget, a deficit in our budget, a deficit to the tune of 876.1 billion. And this deficit, Madam Speaker, will be plugged by borrowing. Now, I go back 2-3 years, and I remember our political leaders were very categorical when they said, we will not borrow in future. But every single budget that is brought to this house, we have to borrow. We are still borrowing. I am not saying that borrowing is bad, but there is an amount of borrowing that goes beyond what we can afford to pay. And even the complaints by the committee itself about the cost of the debt we already have, it flies on the face of exactly what we are doing. Now, Madam Speaker, on the issue of borrowing, 284.2 billion is being borrowed externally, and 591.9 billion from the domestic market. Madam Speaker, what does that mean? Again, we are crowding out local investors. The minute the government borrows locally, it means that the money that was available for businesses to borrow so that they can finance their activities is not available, because government is an easier entity to lend to. So by borrowing too much money locally, it means we are crowding out the private sector. And therefore, that means in the long run, the businesses cannot thrive in this country because they have no access to loan capital. Madam Speaker, I've gone through the submissions by departmental committees, and some of them are quite horrific. I do know that there are some changes that have been made and proposed after the discussions, but let me talk about just 2 or 3 committees. The first one is the Education Committee. The Education Committee actually noticed that there was a failure to provide funds for examinations, national examinations. And Madam Speaker, this has happened in the past, and we have actually sorted out that problem through supplementary budgets. Why are we not taking the education of our children seriously, so that we can provide enough funds for all the activities required for education to take place properly? If you want to destroy a nation, just play around with the education of that country. And that is what is going on, because if you do not provide enough money from Treasury directly for examinations, then it means we are not even thinking ahead. So, Madam Speaker, that is one of the things that was raised by the departmental committee, and yet it is one thing that is already in the Basic Education Act, that which we passed. I think we made amendments in 2018, that examinations in this country for basic education will be free. Madam Speaker, the committee has also talked about substantial deficits in the Department of Higher Education to sponsor this university funding model. Madam Speaker, if we don't provide enough money for that funding model, How then are we saying that we are reviving our universities, we are helping our universities, and we are helping our children? In fact, the committee says that, and these are their words, that these will impact negatively on the students' welfare and increase financial strain on them, not to forget also on their parents. So, Madam Speaker, these are some of the problems that we are facing, the Education Department raised, the Education Committee raised. Madam Speaker, there is a proposal of provision of 4.8 billion to employ 20,000 interns. Now, I see two problems with that. First and foremost, we have interns that were already recruited, and there has been no provision for them to become permanent and pensionable. So we do not know what happens to those ones.